Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Chiefs Digest Live Q&A with myself, Matt Derrick. Our good friend Nick Jacobs, as always, will be joining us here in a little bit. Kind of back into a semi-regular schedule past the holidays, and here live on Tuesday night is our normal God-given time on Tuesday evenings with all of you. We got to juggle the schedule a little bit with the holidays the last couple of weeks, and it's a little unusual week since we do not have a Chiefs game this weekend, but a lot of football for Chiefs fans to be paying attention to. See who will be coming to Arrowhead here in a couple of weeks. A little bit of Chiefs news, not a ton this week. It sounds like there's going to be some availability on Friday that we'll get to talk to, maybe some coaches and players. That is kind of up in the air, but that's currently the schedule coming from the Chiefs. So we'll see what happens there. But otherwise, kind of a quiet week. Players getting a couple of days off after the late return from Denver. Stayed overnight on Sunday, came back late Monday morning or early Monday afternoon, got back to Kansas City. So everything's kind of getting back to normal. Like I said, there was just there was a couple of practice squad transactions on Tuesday. The Chiefs terminating the practice squad contract of Blake Lynch after he had a really good game, I thought, on Sunday against the Broncos. Montreal Washington wide receiver has returned to the practice squad. That was a 1 week plan. Chiefs wanted to be able to give Nick Bolton, Drew Tranquill some time off. Needed an extra linebacker. Both Swayze Bozeman and Cole Christensen, the two linebackers they have on the practice squad, had maxed out their elevations. So that's what prompted the Chiefs to bring in Blake Lynch. I'd be interested to see if he does come back to this club on either a reserve futures deal for the offseason or whether they could even get back on the practice squad. I mean, that was a really good performance. So I think you'd love to be able to have him back around. So we'll see what happens there. Don't have too much else going on. I guess one thing I should, for those of you who do listen to the 41 is the Mic podcast, I made a really sarcastic remark at the end about my neighbor who plows and uses a snowblower, which is a very generous thing for him to do. Goes out into the street to blow the snow. I unfortunately no longer have a snowblower, though, so I have to shovel. And unfortunately, when he does that, snow does accumulate at the end of my driveway and makes that especially once the plows come through, it makes it even nastier with the shoveling of the snow. I made this remark, and I don't know if he heard it. I know he has a friend who listens to 810 and some of the things that I do. So might be that we have a mutual friend who is a listener to the podcast. But the next morning woke up and my entire driveway had been cleared of snow with the snowblower. So I'm assuming that's the neighbor that I chastised maybe unfairly at the end of the podcast over the weekend on 41 is the Mic. So I felt it was only fair to acknowledge the kindness that whether it was him or someone else, I don't know who the snow blowing fairy is. I have not yet made contact, but I'm assuming it's the one and the same person. Was very kind and obviously saved me because I just went out to even shovel my porch and that wore me out. So doing the driveway would definitely have taken something out of me. I hope all of you have survived the snow here in Kansas City. Obviously, it's been a rough few days in Chiefs Kingdom. I think some southern portions of Chiefs Kingdom are getting snow tonight, and we had like 11 inches here in Kansas City. So that's a lot to plow through, a lot to shovel through. So hopefully you're all doing well, taking care of yourselves. I don't think I have anything else to add. So now, Nick, don't worry. Yes, bye-week enthusiast Nick Jacobs. I do try to leave the enthusiast references over on 41 as the Mic, but Jagar, I truly appreciate that. Love it. Glad it's catching on. Nick will be here in a little bit. Hey, Going to the grocery store, still not an easy trek around here. So if he had to hit Hy-Vee this afternoon, this evening, more power to him. Make sure to get that in. And yes, let's roll! Hooray, hooray! It is Q&A day. I love the rhyme there. I don't know if Mr. M. Don't know if you were talking about you being a little early. That was at 12:48, so I assume could have also been the fact that I actually, got the notification set up for this and everything early. So I'm trying. I'm getting better, and I showed up at 7:02 tonight. So we're just getting early all around here. Let's just dive into the questions then. Matt's got the next one up. I think, gosh, Matt, you posted that one a little early. So if once again, as always, if you can't make the Q&As, feel free to drop in and post your questions. I can see them now once the podcast begins and the live stream begins. So that's an improvement. And you can always ask your questions on YouTube, and Nick and I'll be glad to answer them. But Matt, your question, since it's a hot debate online this week, how do you feel about Humphreys Tooney versus Tooney Caliendo moving forward? It has been quite the debate, and I feel like there hasn't been a lot of nuance. I feel like most of what I've seen, observation-wise, analysis-wise, has generally been one way or the other. It's, hey, DJ Humphreys was fine. He could play there. Let's go ahead and move forward with him. Or he was terrible, can't play. Tooney needs to start at left tackle the rest of the way, and Caliendo at left guard. That's the only thing you can do. And I don't know what your plan for DJ Humphreys is then, but I guess just to be in a backup if needed. I think there's a lot more nuance to it. I mean, I could make a compelling case for whatever Andy Reid and Andy Heck, which way they want to go. I mean, I think there was enough evidence both ways that you could make the case for both directions. I mean, was it a dominating performance, DJ Humphreys? No. I mean, there was a couple of snaps that he'd love to have back, a couple of snaps that misses that he had that directly led to sacks. I thought by and large he was generally fine. When we're comparing his performance to Joe Tooney's performance, I think the one of the really key things to consider was the time that both these quarterbacks were taking. And pulling it up here to see if got it handy here about Carson Wentz. Average time to throw was 2.6 seconds. That's pretty quick. That's pretty good. However, Patrick Mahomes been coming in under that each of the last 2 weeks. So even though that was pretty quick, Mahomes has been getting rid of the ball faster. So, and I think there was a couple times that Carson Wentz held on the ball too long. I mean, I think his internal clock was just off a little bit. That probably made it a little bit difficult for the offensive line. I also think that the Broncos, I mean, the strength of their pass rush is on the exterior. And yes, the Chiefs have faced some really tough pass rushers. I think that of the front four and the edge rushers that the Chiefs had faced in the last few weeks, I mean, I think Denver has the best complement of them all. I mean, Nick Bonito is incredibly fast off the ball, might be as the fastest as any of the edge rushers that the Chiefs have faced the last few weeks, but they got a lot of depth there. They were definitely challenging the Chiefs on the edge. I mean, they were absolutely going after DJ Humphreys and Wanya Morris on the outside, and they had success. I mean, let's face it, they had some success, but I thought DJ Humphreys, by and large, for the most part, did a pretty good job of getting himself between his man and his quarterback, and that's what Joe Tooney had been able to do really well the last couple of weeks. I mean, I still think that if DJ Humphreys is serviceable, then your best offensive line is probably DJ Humphreys at left tackle and your all-pro left guard, Joe Tooney, at left guard. A lot of it's going to come down to the comfort level of Patrick Mahomes, though. If Mahomes is comfortable with DJ Humphreys and is willing to say, hey, I'm going to trust him. I'm going to be okay with him at left tackle. I'm not going to be keeping an eye behind my back. I'm going to be keeping two eyes downfield. If he has that trust factor with DJ Humphreys, that's your best offensive line. If the trust isn't there, then you got to go with Joe Tooney. If that's what is going to make Mahomes comfortable. I mean, Mr. M, your comment there after watching the All-22, I would start Humphreys in the playoffs. Would you? Like I said, I would. I mean, I think DJ Humphreys was fine. And when you take fine at left tackle and all pro at left guard, I mean, is that better than fine at left tackle and average at left guard? I mean, you be the judge. And I also think that it's easier that if you start DJ Humphries in the playoffs and he struggles, it's easier to go to Joe Thuney than. I'm not saying you can't start Joe Thuney and then if he struggles, bring back DJ Humphries, but that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. I mean, your best offensive line is if DJ Humphries is playing well, Joe Thuney plays left guard. That'd be the way to start. And if it doesn't work, you can always go back to what you've had the last couple of weeks. But I think I feel like I saw enough that I would start DJ Humphries. I'd give him a chance. Like I said, I mean, if Andy Reid and Andy Heck go the other direction, I'll understand it. I mean, it's not like I don't think it's a slam dunk case either way. I think that's the direction that the Chiefs would prefer to go. So we'll see what happens. But I just wouldn't be surprised if it is DJ Humphries at left tackle and Joe Thuney back at left guard when this team lines up in the divisional round, assuming that everybody is healthy. So we'll just see what happens. Mr. M's question, what's the likelihood of the Chiefs losing Nico Remigio on waivers when Mecole Hardman returns? I mean, probably not as huge as you would think because, you know, my recollection, and if somebody sees it differently, you can always correct me here, but my recollection is that, once you're into the playoffs, the only teams left that can make waiver claims are the teams that are remaining in the playoffs. So you have a lower pool of talent that can be switching teams. And not that you can't see some moves. Like I know the Vikings signed Daniel Jones today. That's kind of an unusual to me for a playoff team to be using a roster spot on a player who will probably not be a factor for them in the playoffs. But I understand why they're doing it. And I'm not even completely sure that that's the move that the Chiefs would make, that if and when Mecole is healthy enough to return and come back, I'm not 100% sold that it's even Nico Remigio that would be the guy that they make the move for. Nico's been really good on punts and kick returns. I think you'd probably love, the opportunity to put both those guys back there. That might be your two best kick returners. And I still think that Nico might right now be your best punt returner. So I don't know if I would immediately just go ahead and dump Nico, but I do think there's at least a decent chance to be able to get him back onto the practice squad. I mean, the Chiefs don't want to lose control of him, I don't think, with everything that they've invested in him and what they've been able to get out of him so far. So, it's a risk. It always is. But then again, it comes back down to what other team, and hey, it did happen a couple of years ago. The Chiefs did this late in the season. I don't remember if that was the last week of the regular season or the beginning of the playoffs when they put Chris Lamons on waivers and the Cincinnati Bengals took him. That was a calculated risk. It didn't go the right way. We'll see if the Chiefs do that, if they would lose Nico. Like I said, I don't think they would necessarily, and I'm not 100% sure that is the move that they would make. Second question from Mr. M, will Chris Jones be ready for the divisional round? I've gotten no evidence otherwise. Every indication I've gotten is that, yes, Chris Jones will be ready by the divisional round. Probably would have practiced, it sounds like, last week had week 18 mattered to the Chiefs. Probably would have practiced and played. May not have been a full participant all week, but would have been close enough that I think he would have played in week 18 had that mattered to the Chiefs. Give him 2 more weeks. That's no doubt to me. I mean, I can't imagine Chris Jones not being ready by the divisional round. Chiefs are certainly acting like he's going to be ready by the divisional round. So I think barring any major change, that is the direction that they're going with Chris Jones and how he is doing right now. Jackson, do you think the Chiefs would bring Hollywood back on a deal like $8 million a year with $3 million for 70 catches, $3 million for 1,000 yards, and $3 million for 8 touchdowns? I mean, those are pretty good incentives. I mean, if you had that kind of a year, I think the way you're talking about it would be like a $8 million guaranteed with, it sounds like, $9 million in incentives. Maybe. I think that'd be a fair deal for Hollywood, unless he just goes off in these next three games the Chiefs potentially could be playing, and just blows everybody away and makes everybody think, okay, he's back, he's good, he's fine, back from the injury, he's Hollywood again, then I mean, maybe there would be a better deal out there on the open market. I wouldn't necessarily have a problem with those kind of numbers and incentives if I am Hollywood's agent, and the way that the Chiefs normally do these, and usually done around the league now. It probably wouldn't be something straightforward like 3 million for 70, 3 million for 1,000, 3 for 8. I mean, it could be structured to get to that point, but I think it would be more likely 500,000 for 40 catches, 1 million for 60 catches. 3 million for each of those incentives might be a little much. I'd probably back off them a little bit, but they're usually more staircase. So the kind of like DeAndre Hopkins. I think he had them staircase this year, where there's like 3 levels, where he could have got 250 or 500 or 750. But yeah, I mean, I that kind of a deal, Jackson. And none of them would be likely to be earned. So those incentives on the back end that you're talking about, none of them would apply to the 2025 salary cap. So no, I mean, based on what I've seen out of Hollywood so far, I wouldn't have any problems with that as the Chiefs, because I do think that that was a fluke injury. That's not something that is going to be a routine injury. He is not a guy who's had a lot of injuries that's affected him like that in the past. I mean, I know he's been dinged up here and there, but nothing like we've seen with some other receivers. So if I'm the Chiefs, that would be a fine deal with me. Let's roll. Can we get a Bengals rant tonight? Pulitzer worthy. I've got a little one in the chamber. I don't know if Nick's got one. I do like to save rants for when Nick's here and give him an opportunity to plant his flag when it comes to the rants, and that's obviously why I know a lot of us come here. It's for the Nick Jacobs rants, and so like I said, I got a little bit of a one that maybe we can feed off of each other. So let's roll. I'll circle back to this one once Nick gets here, and maybe we can give you what you're here for. John, hi to you as well. Thoughts on keeping Joe Tooney at left tackle and replacing Caliendo with Kingsley or Norzad after their performances Sunday? I mean, potentially. I don't think the Chiefs are there. I mean, I think that they're going to go with experience. They're going to go with what is more of a known quantity. That would be kind of going out there a little bit, and I thought it was really interesting that I don't think it was just necessarily tied to Hunter Norzad, but the Broncos did not attack him. I mean, they really did not. I was surprised at how many times that they just, put all of their pressure on the edges and really didn't attack the center of that line. And like I said, I mean, I think that was more to do with the Broncos feeling like that they could overwhelm the edges of that line, that they could attack Humphreys and they could attack Morris, and maybe the Broncos really didn't know what they'd be facing, so that was just kind of their general strategy, is that they were just going to attack the Chiefs' offensive line on the edges. But I was just amazed going through and watching the all 22, and just how many times basically that Hunter Norzad was left on an island. I mean, the Broncos just did not attack him. And that worked out a couple of times. He was able to then provide support to someone else, and was able to get downfield on some runs. I think he did a good job there. Fairly highly rated, at least, positively rated by Pro Football Focus. And I'm not a huge PFF guy, but I thought that was encouraging. And obviously PFF's, ratings for Kingsley wasn't bad either. But, Kingsley's played so little at guard, especially at this level. I think that if you're playing Joe Tooney at left tackle, I do think Caliendo is your first guy up just from experience. Even though I think that Norzad might be even a better player now, I know he's got a higher ceiling. If Kingsley is a guard, and that's where the Chiefs want to take him going forward, he's got a higher ceiling. But when you're just talking about pure experience right now and comfort level and understanding the offense and understanding the concepts, I mean, talent versus chemistry and knowledge, Caliendo's got that. And I mean, this is the thing. It's a three-peat time. It's not. This is not really a time for taking chances or experimenting. I mean, this is time with going what you got. And if you don't win doing and trusting the people who have been there all along and all that, then hey, it's not meant to be. But I think you take too many chances at a time like this. I mean, like I said, if Mike Caliendo struggles, I mean, you can go a different direction. But I don't see any really reason that hey, if you start Tooney and you're starting Caliendo, that's the direction you want to go. I can't really make a case for having somebody else replace them. And Apocalypse kind of the same way. Thoughts on how Kingsley and Norzad played? I mean, there has been some thoughts from the Chiefs, in the organization with both Kingsley and Wanye about whether or not both or either one of them are better suited at guards. We've seen both of them get chances and get reps at guard. So I still think that's a possibility for both of them. We'll see what this organization decides in the off season. I'm really high on Hunter Norzad. I think he's a really smart player. Nick's talked about his punch. I think, and I think that has been improving. If he works on his strength in the off season, gets a little bit stronger. I think the skill set's there. I think the knowledge is there. I think he's a 3-position guy on that interior line. He can play any of them. Obviously, I thought he looked good at center. Remember, Creed dribbled the first snap. I thought it was kind of funny just because it's the last game of the season. It didn't hurt them, but we had not seen that dribble snap from Creed all season long, and then it happens on that first snap to Carson on Sunday. And Hunter was 100%. So like I said, I think he's got great potential all three of those spots, being able to back up Creed going forward. And I'm under the assumption that Hunter Norzad's going to be one of your starters next season. So, and nothing that happened on Sunday dissuaded me there. I feel like that he's got really good potential there. And Kingsley, if he did it and move into guard, it wouldn't be the first time, even in Kansas City, that we've seen the Chiefs take a tackle and maybe an average tackle or a struggling tackle and turn him into a really good guard. So, and if there's a scenario where both Trey Smith and Joe Tooney are not back next season, then it's a potential that maybe both those guys could be guards or interior linemen going forward. But my thoughts in Apocalypse, both of them, I liked them both. I thought they were pretty good. Sharon, need a run game. So DGH and at left tackle and Joe back to left guard. Best 5 to start, then switch if needed. And you hit the magic words right there, and I know Nick said that on the 41 Instant Mic over the weekend. That's what Chiefs are going to do. Chiefs are going to start what they think are the best 5. And if they think that it's DJ Humphries and Joe left guard, that's their best 5. That's what they will do. And Sharon, will anyone miss Matt Nagy if he gets a head coach someplace? I will. I think there's a lot of people who would miss Matt Nagy. There's a reason why he's come back, and so far some other coaches haven't come back. Andy Reid really likes him, really trusts him. I think he does a lot from an administrative point to sometimes take some things off of Andy Reid's plate at this point in his career. I think that's helpful. Matt's been here for some really good moments for this offense. He's done some good things, and I'm still not even 100% convinced that, when we talk about this offense not being as productive as it was a few seasons ago, we're also still trying to go for a three-peat and, in the ballpark of that. So it's not like they're failing. And this is an offense that every single week gets tested by everybody. So I'm not as down on Matt Nagy as some. And I think that, the fact that Matt's being considered for some head coaching jobs around the league, indication that the NFL has not soured on Matt Nagy. And I still look at the job that he did in Chicago. And I always felt like that the one mistake that Matt Nagy made when he went to Chicago, and I was not in the room, so I don't know that this was what was said word for word, but the indication and the reports and certainly the actions all said when, Matt got the job in Chicago because he said, hey, I'm comfortable with Mitch Trubisky. I can try to win with Mitch Trubisky. That was brave, but I don't think anybody could win in the NFL with Mitch Trubisky. Bless his heart. And the fact that Matt was basically a 500 coach and went to 2 playoff games and won 11 games one season with Mitch Trubisky as a starting quarterback. And then, you look at what Mike Tomlin did, who is a really good coach. I mean, I do not think that Matt Nagy got the best of chances in Chicago. I think that organization, I mean, I like Ryan Pace. I think he's been doing a good job. Ryan Poles, rather. I think he's been doing a good job. But they're trying to turn around an entire organizational culture there. And Matt couldn't do it the first time. I mean, that's inertia that he was up against. There's a lot of problems in that organization from the top on down, and Matt as a head coach wasn't going to fix that. And then when you don't have a quarterback, you can't fix that either. Maybe they have the quarterback now. We'll see. But sometimes you get the quarterback in a bad culture. That's not a good mix either. But I think the fact that Matt Nagy was a 500 coach, went to a couple of playoffs with Mitch Trubisky as his quarterback in that organization, that tells me actually a lot about Matt Nagy as a coach, and I think as a head coach, that I think is positive. We'll see if he gets a head coaching job, but I think there's more people in the organization that would miss Matt Nagy than a lot of people realize. Round Rock. I know Spags and Nagy are under contract, but is there a provision in their contract, or would Chiefs to release them if offered a head coaching job? Would they receive draft compensation? No, there's typically, no matter how ironclad that you've got a contract with an offensive coordinator, there's always the out for becoming a head coach. I mean, and typically there's never any compensation for that. I mean, it's lateral moves. If you wanted to acquire somebody's offensive coordinator to be your offensive coordinator, or you want to hire somebody's head coach to be your head coach, that's where the compensation would come in. So no, I mean, if either one of them got head coaching jobs, no, there wouldn't be any compensation from anybody else. And I think that absolutely, if another team asked to interview either one of them, I think the Chiefs would allow it. I mean, I don't think they have any problem with that. I think Andy Reid's never going to stand in the way of any of his coaches becoming head coaches. So yeah, I don't think that would be a problem at all. I think they both have deserved to get opportunities again. Spags, I could go on about his situation in St. Louis being very similar to Matt Nagy's, and that he just never had a fair chance. And I still want to know about that last year when Josh McDaniels was his offensive coordinator, because that was like the single worst performance by an offense, maybe in NFL history. And I mean, there was nothing that Nags could do about that. So that's my there's a whole separate Spag soapbox that I could get on about St. Louis, and I think he deserves another opportunity. Just not sure he's going to get it. Chris, you're flying down to Miami for the Orange Bowl. Sounds like a lot of fun. Any top tips about Hard Rock Stadium? Thoughts on the game? I mean, I've been my only trip to Hard Rock was for Super Bowl 54. My only really recollections on it, mostly because I remember Sports Illustrated making me go all over the stadium. I just remember that there being a lot of walking to get from the ground level to the upper deck where the press box was. And I had to sit in the auxiliary press box, which was out in the stands. And I thought, but that was back when I was also about 60 pounds heavier than I am now. And I thought those seats were very, very tight. I had some bruising because the seats were so tight. But it's a cool stadium. I mean, it really is. I think it's pretty well built, pretty well done. A lot of fun. So I hope you enjoy it down there. And for the game itself, gosh, I'm trying to keep. I can't match the bowl game with the playoff. So I'm having to look up to remember who's playing in which bowl. Notre Dame and Penn State. I got to tell you, I mean, I've been downplaying Penn State the entire way, so I guess I have probably been making a mistake there. Maybe I should probably say Penn State's going to win this one, because I have been betting against Penn State, and I say that just metaphorically, because I've not actually been putting any money on Penn State. I don't know enough. I don't follow college football enough to be betting on any of these games. But we'll see what Nick Jacobs thinks, because I know Nick is here and ready to come in. So
I'm here. I am
Nick,
here.
Welcome to the party.
Yeah. Hey, I put a special title on my name for you this week.
Oh, you did?
I did.
And then I got rid of the titles, but I can add them. I can add them.
When that happens. When that happens.
I can add that back. Oh, so while I'm doing that, any thoughts on Penn State Notre Dame for Chris? He's going down to the game.
I've never been to Hard Rock. Never. I don't know what Florida's like. Matt, I thought we established a long time ago the states I've been in.
I don't think we ever went through that. No.
Yeah, we did. We literally did it in a Q&A.
I don't remember this. Did we do this?
Gosh, you can ask the people in the comments section if they remember. And if they're a loyal listener, they will remember.
That's the problem. I wasn't
and if
listening.
Nobody in the comment section remembers, then you were not the loyal listener I thought you were. So
that could have been. I mean, it could have been one of those times that either I was distracted or I had to go to the bathroom. So.
No, sorry, Matt. You're supposed to remember everything I said at all times. This is hurtful. Okay. I've been to, obviously, the state of Missouri. Been to Kansas. Furthest west I've been is Lawrence, Kansas. Don't know that there's actually anything past Lawrence, Kansas. Been to Waterloo, Iowa. Played in Northern Iowa's Bowl. Played in a game there. Then I've been to Illinois.
Oh, I love that.
And I've been to Indiana for the NFL Combine and the Chiefs playoff game in 2013. Then I don't know of anything further south than Osage Beach, Missouri at Lake of the Ozarks. So that is where I've been, man. See, Nikki M remembers, says only about 4 states, and technically it's 5, but Nikki is a true listener right there, Matt.
Okay.
Nikki paid more attention than you did. Okay.
I clicked the wrong button, so now terrible things have happened.
Oh no!
I know.
Will you?
I know.
You were, yeah, because it's the comment. It's adjusting the comment style.
Yeah, and I'm really enjoying this. By the way, I mean, I have some problems. I have to fix it going forward with some things. But
now you're in the bubble. Nope. Now we're back to regular.
Really.
Now we're back to bubble, like a pop. It's like a VH1 pop-up.
Hey, everybody, you're here for, obviously. I mean, I say you can't experiment during the postseason. You can't experiment during the bye week. So my problem is though that I clicked the wrong button, trying to get your title to appear.
And while Matt's doing that, I'll answer Chris's other question. He just popped up right now. Chris, I don't know. I don't know what's going to be going on that work week. But I mean, College World Series might be neat to check out at some point, and it would allow me to go to Nebraska at some point in my life. Because everybody's like, every time I say that, you haven't been to Nebraska, you haven't been to Omaha Zoo. No, it wasn't a state I mentioned, so clearly I haven't been there before.
Okay, I wasn't listening. Have you been to Indiana? I know you've been to Indiana and you've been to Illinois then.
So you just admitted not only did you not listen last time this happened, you literally didn't just listen while you're playing pop-up video VH1.
You gave me an assignment, and I was trying to fulfill the assignment and got distracted. And I've been able to now do everything except get up on the screen what you wanted on the screen.
Well, Matt, it at least gives you a goal to keep working towards.
So, there we go. Now it popped up.
Look at that.
I love it. This is our second enthusiast reference of the night. I love it. There we go. We'll go with that. I love it.
Yeah, color scheme's a little off. It's orange.
I know. It changed colors, and I don't entirely understand why, but
looks like there's an alert or warning coming. Now it's
getting worse. Yeah, this is not good. We're gonna just try to kind of approximate.
There it is. Oh, you had it. You were back there. It was red right there. Nailed it.
See, it should be matching the rest of the red. It did match earlier.
Hey, Matt, Justin's got a question for you down at the bottom. It's 7:37 in real time.
Didn't
have to wait an hour for lightning.
We're going to just go with this color for now, and we're going to fix it for next week.
Real time. Matt, it's going to pass you by.
Was it that one?
No, it wasn't. It's two above.
Sorry, Justin. Oh, there we go. You said Justin. I
Yeah.
said Brian. When do we quiz Matt on the states Nick has been to?
Right now, Justin.
Okay,
Right
so
now.
I think I heard that you've been to Waterloo, Iowa.
Yep.
You've been to Missouri.
Yep.
You've been to Kansas.
Nailed it.
You've been to Indiana and Illinois.
Yep.
And is that it?
I don't know. Is it, Matt?
I'm going to lock into those are my 5 states. Final answer.
Nailed it. Good job.
Okay.
I'm so proud of you.
Okay.
If I had a non-copyrighted game show sound effect for you, we would have done it right there.
I mean, I do admit I'm pretty surprised that you haven't had to make some work road trips elsewhere. So,
Not when you're a producer, you get to stay in your studio cage.
well, that is true. That's very true.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. That was
Justin's very proud of you. Okay, I don't know where we're
very,
at question-wise before,
I'm
but
very
it's
proud of myself.
Further back. Brenda can't remember what she had for lunch, so she's impressed that Nikki remembers 4 of the 5 states.
Oh, here we go. This is I had this question earlier because Luttrell wanted to know: do you have any Bengals rants tonight, Nick?
Maybe.
Anything loaded up?
Do I have to do it right now, or what
are you trying to go for it organically? That somebody pushes the right button and everything?
I mean, we can work up to it, or we can do it right now. It's up to you. I don't care. Whatever. What feels right in your heart, Matt? That's what I want to know.
I have a pretty basic Bengals rant. Okay. Which is not really outside the box of any sort of any nature. Right. I think it is just probably a summing up of people's general feelings. But every fan base in most sports, and certainly in the NFL, every fan base has their idiosyncrasies. You know, I mean, the Chiefs fan base, bless your all hearts, you've got some idiosyncrasies. I mean, I don't talk about them unless, hot button issues come up. But, I won't say anything. I mean, like I said, if you want to rant about the Chiefs fans, I'll do it when the moment comes. But right now, I've got no serious complaints. But you all do have a few little traits that are interesting. The Bengals, though, my goodness, Nick. I mean, how? Okay, first of all, you go 9-8, you lose any right whatsoever to complain about missing the playoffs for any reason whatsoever. I mean, win a game. I don't know. Beat the New England Patriots at home in week 1. I mean, that'd be a great start. Don't start 0-3. Great idea. What were they, 2-5? 7 weeks in? Maybe not start 2-5. That's my advice. Don't depend on a team that's 15-1 and going to play a team that has to win to make the playoffs for saving and bailing you out of the fire. All I'm saying.
Okay.
Just get a dose of reality, and there is no doubt that the Chiefs absolutely live rent-free in the minds of Cincinnati Bengals fans, and I do not understand why.
It's because the Chiefs are where the Bengals think they should be.
But should they be?
The Chiefs are where the Bengals fans think they should be.
Because this is my other thing. This will probably, if any Bengals fans get a hold of this, it'll make me go viral. I'm sure for all the wrong reasons.
Oh, congrats!
But I mean, and we've been talking about this, and we may talk about this more in depth because it's voting time for various awards, and I'll be casting my ballot for the PFWA awards. I mean, I'll tell you right now, I'm not voting for Joe Burrow as for NFL MVP for a lot of reasons. One of them being that you kind of need to make the playoffs if you want to be MVP. It'd be nice. But 2, he had a nice year. I mean, I'm not denying that. But let's not pretend that he just reinvented the position of quarterback in the NFL. I mean, Mahomes' 2018 year was better than Joe Burrow this year.
Okay.
Am I wrong?
I haven't compared the numbers.
I mean, one of them threw for 5,000 yards and 50 touchdowns. So, But, and that comes back to, of course, one of my other things, which is that, hey, if you want to make the playoffs, maybe don't give up 44 points to the Pittsburgh freaking Steelers. But I'm just saying, Joe Burrow, nice year. I might consider him for Offensive Player of the Year. That's a possibility because he put up a lot of numbers and just didn't win a bunch of games. Not entirely his fault, because occasionally his defense just absolutely did nothing for him. But there was occasions that Joe Burrow did absolutely nothing for himself either. And I'm done.
All right. So my thoughts on the Cincinnati Bengals and the fans that continue to say that unfair practice or whatever weird thing I saw attached to it today.
Because apparently this is the first time in NFL history this has happened.
Matt, when a man's cooking, you gotta let him. You gotta let him cook. All right. So this is a shout out to all the Cincinnati Bengals fans that I've seen on Twitter that continue to talk about this and are just embarrassed that the Chiefs went out and did what they did. Here's a fun fact for you. Maybe get ownership that actually wants to spend money. Do that first. That's the first priority that you need to go out there and do. Have him actually sign checks for people other than Joe Burrow to try to get the new stadium funding that he wanted. Oh, hey, look, they got what they wanted out of that, so he doesn't have to spend any more money if he doesn't want to. Then when I used to say that in the past, Bengals fans would be like, oh, no, you don't know what you're talking about. They spend money. Okay. Then why doesn't T. Higgins have his money right now? Why doesn't Tyler Boyd have his money right now? Why doesn't Jamar Chase have his money right now? There's a reason why. Because they don't like to spend money other than what they have to do to get what they want from taxpayers or the city. So they're not going to do that. Trey Hendrickson wants more money. I doubt he's going to get it. They'll probably move on from him. The reality check is this for Bengals fans. You got a terrible O-line coach. You've had it the entire time. At some point, Joe Burrow, if he doesn't have the star-studded wide receivers with him and he just has an average cast at some point, he's going to get beaten like a human pinata and get sacked as much as Patrick Mahomes did this year. And he did before. He got sacked 8 or 9 times that one year. The Titans, when they went against the Titans. So there's that point. Next thing, you just decided to do the dumbest thing possible and fire Lou Anarumo as your defensive coordinator. The one guy that could match what Joe Burrow means to the team is what Lou meant to the defense. And people that want to come at me on Twitter and say, well, you know what? They were terrible this year. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't have guys that can execute your scheme. That's on general manager. That's on the owner for not wanting to pay money. So those two things combined is why you were giving up points at a Bob Sutton level, and you thought Bob Sutton was running the Bengals defense, and that it was the 2018 Chiefs in Cincinnati this year. So you have those points. So Zach Taylor's the final point here. Here's the reality. Zach Taylor is a soft coach. He doesn't put discipline into his football team. He doesn't start them out the right way. He doesn't put them on a key to success in training camp. And that's why they always dig themselves a hole in the first 5 games to be 2-3, 1-4, or whatever they end up being. Zach Taylor is the guy who has to change who he is. But I don't think he's going to. And he gets to look like a genius because he's got Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. But if at some point he loses Jamar Chase and he loses T. Higgins, you're going to find out that Boy Wonder isn't so special after all. So, for the Bengals fans that want to keep trying to blame the Chiefs and say, oh, the Chiefs were scared. The Chiefs were scared. The Chiefs were scared. No, you've got a bad organizational structure. So, look in the mirror, worry about yourselves, and congratulations on being relevant 1 year in the playoffs. And here's your winning lottery numbers. Good luck to you because you're going to need them because an owner ain't going to pay for half your team. And I'm done.
No notes. I got nothing. Oh, very well said. Yeah, I find it interesting that you're blaming the defensive coordinator for not being able to put a defense on the field when you've steadily and slowly but steadily not paid any of the defensive players that he's developed and grown, and then you let them walk and play well for other teams while you have nothing in the cupboard.
And we talked about this before. I don't think they're necessarily blaming on him. They're just using him as the scapegoat so that Zach Taylor and the GM don't have the spotlight shined on them for their incompetency. That's what's really going on there, is they were able to throw Lou Anarumo out there so their checks continue to clear from ownership. And ownership, since they clearly don't know football as well as they probably should for the money they invest in it, they go along with it, and they're like, oh, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, and then Zach Taylor and GM can be like, well, we didn't make the playoffs because we gave up this amount of points. We gave up this, we did this. Players just aren't responding to Lou anymore. And they can say that stuff, and the owner clearly bought it hook, line, and sinker and signed off on it and gave the thumbs up and said, okay, great, do what you got to do. But that's fine. If they want to make themselves irrelevant, and good luck to them.
We could have a separate conversation in another day or another time, anytime we want to in the off season, about other organizations who make the same decisions, such as how Trent Baalke continues to keep a job in Ville.
It's because he knows how to kiss up to whoever the owner is at the time and knows how to play office politics. That's why he continues to succeed no matter who the head coach is, and the fact he's gotten 5 or 6 head coaches fired because of who he is. And it's pretty well known that him and most head coaches don't get along very well. That's why they won't get a competent head coach. They'll get a young and dumb first-time head coach that is desperate to be a head coach, and then he will find out why the veteran head coaches didn't want to go there. But it'll take 2 or 3 years. And as long as he has a good agent that gets him paid for 5 so that he can be there for 3 and get paid for the final 2 not to work, then tip of the cap to him.
So Luttrell, I hope you feel like you got your money's worth there. I don't know if it's Pulitzer worthy, but Nick's was for sure. Mine probably not so much, but speaking of lightning round, we'll go to a lightning round question here because we've talked about this, Nick, and I think you and I have the same answer on this one. Which team would give the Chiefs the hardest matchup in the divisional round? Broncos, Chargers, Steelers, or Texans? Chargers, our final answer.
You go ahead, and I'll have another one for you here.
I'll let you. I mean, I've been pretty.
Say your thought.
I've been steadfast over the last couple of weeks. I think the Chargers are the toughest one. I think they would be the toughest matchup, notwithstanding what happened against the Broncos over the weekend. I mean, I don't think that was really apples to apples, but obviously, if the Broncos come to Kansas City, they will be coming in with a head full of steam because they've just beaten the Buffalo Bills. I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I think the odds are it's going to be the Chargers, and I think the Chargers, of those 4 teams, I think are the most complete team.
Yep, of the 4, yes, the Chargers look like the best of the bunch. Each one of those teams has their awards. The Steelers, I think, are. I think Russell Wilson has fractured that locker room like he did the Broncos locker room. And I think that's kind of done. George Pickens seems like he's increasingly frustrated. I don't know if Mike Tomlin's going to be able to wrangle him back in at all. The Texans just really, it's a little bit too big for them, and they just don't have the roster, I think, to be able to make a deep run. Chargers are still some wide receivers and a younger defensive line away from being what they need to be able to truly compete for an AFC championship and Super Bowl. The Broncos, Bo Nix I think he's going to make some poor decisions when it matters in the playoff games, and that's what's going to cost them and end their run. Broncos do have a good front 7. They do have a good secondary, and Vance Joseph's a good coach that they may potentially lose here pretty soon, depending on who he interviews, because I know there's some interview requests for him. So we'll see how that ends up going. But at the end of the day, I think when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs, this organization, this team knows what's at stake here in the weeks ahead. They know that a legacy that has never been accomplished before is on the line. So no matter what national pundit says out there, no matter what they bring up about the close games, no matter what they say about the Denver Broncos game last week, none of it actually matters because the number one goal that the Chiefs have been trying to achieve all year is within striking distance now. So whoever the divisional opponent is that's in their way, Andy Reid has 2 weeks to prepare for. Steve Spagnuolo has a bad performance that his defense put out there that you can noticeably see on the sidelines multiple times that he was not happy with. All those things combined, this is legacy. This is a legacy month right now. The Chiefs can go chase something and set themselves apart from any other NFL franchise in the modern era, in the salary cap era, and since probably the AFL-NFL merger, is the Chiefs can get 3 in a row. Patrick Mahomes sets himself up as a quarterback that's done something nobody else ever has. Andy Reid as a head coach would set himself up as doing something that nobody else ever has. And any of those players that have been along on this entire run set themselves apart from other players in NFL history. So right now at this moment, the only opponent, in my opinion, that matters is execution. The ability to execute is their opponent. Rust is their opponent if that is an issue. But I think this Chiefs team is going to be really locked in when divisional and AFC Championship come around, and I think they're going to crank it up at a level and at a focus that we just saw the tip of the iceberg against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I just think this Chiefs team, I think they know what's at stake. I think they're going to turn it on to a different level, and I don't envy whoever stands in their way.
Amen. I can't disagree with you there. Well, I think I'm afraid we lost Peter because Peter did not want us to talk about the Bengals, and we did. So, Peter, I hope you're still around because I promise.
Peter, let us know in the comment section if you're still here.
I promise I'm not going to mention the Bengals the rest of the night.
Don't promise something you can't deliver on.
More than likely, I'm just saying. I mean, I bet you know.
I'm just going to keep an eye on the comment section
to see if I might even just skip it if somebody asks about that team again. So.
Still keeping tabs on Peter over here.
There you go. Black Magic 40. What do you think about Jalen Watson's impact will be on the team when he comes back? I don't know, Nick. I really don't, because I don't know when he is going to be cleared to come back, what shape he's going to be in football wise when he is cleared to come back, if he's cleared to come back. I mean, if he is good enough to play, if he's healthy enough to play, Nick, he is their second best corner. I think that's been established at this point.
Yeah, so the 21-day window, what I personally think it's about is just to give themselves an option. There's no guarantee that they're going to activate him. There's no guarantee that he'll come back. As you remember with Jerick McKinnon last year, the Chiefs activated his 21-day window, and they had him on. I want to say they had him on the Super Bowl roster, but he never really he didn't really make the impact because I don't think he was 100%. He really went back into form. So somebody like Jalen Watson, I think the Chiefs just want to give themselves the option that if he gets to a certain point where he could help them and make an impact, they will activate him. But I think they're just trying to give themselves the option. Same with McCole Hardman, to where if they do need him, they want to have that opportunity available and have each one of those guys ramped up to where if they need to, they can help be on the roster.
Yeah.
Well, and Jedi, I'm just going to say right now, I know you're saying he's already running, so hopefully just because you saw a video of him running a straight line and then him cutting all that stuff doesn't mean that he's at 100% right now. Doesn't mean he's back to who he was before, because Brian Cook could put up videos too, but you don't see the acceleration until it's in a game situation and you kind of see the difference of it. So just don't be fooled by a video where somebody's on the field by themselves, because they do actually have to play other opponents. Not the air. Not the air or ghost.
And you could very well be right. I mean, and I don't typically buy into conspiracy theories. I know there's some other theories out there that, you know, the Chiefs just want, you know, for teams to have to game plan for it. And hey, maybe they are playing some sort of 4D chess. But I think it's more likely, like you said, they're trying to keep their options open. Maybe it's a reward for Jalen, because he's obviously has worked his butt off to try to get to this point. He's attacked his rehab, so who knows? Maybe it's a legitimate opportunity, and if it is, great. I mean, great for Jalen Watson. I mean, it would be one of the more impressive, you know, bounce backs from an injury that we've seen in a while. So I'd say more power to him. Dr. Ozzy, any other potential front office candidates to leave aside from Mike Borgonzi? Mike Borgonzi had a request to interview with the New York Jets for their open GM job. And once again, I mean, there's only, 3 GM jobs open, Nick? Is that right?
Let's see. Jets.
Titans.
Technically, yes, the Titans GM job. I mean, the title is open. The actual responsibilities are not open.
Well, there's that. Gosh, I was thinking there was a third job. Why am I completely blanking on it?
The Raiders GM they still have. The Saints still have their GM. The Jaguars still have their GM. Cowboys still have Jerry Jones. So the Bears have Ryan Poles. So,
and obviously, there's always some opportunities that
Giants
could open. Gosh. I am losing my mind, Nick. trying to click on a link that I thought would tell me which were the specific jobs that were open right now, and it's only telling me head coaching jobs, even though my search for GM openings. I could have sworn there was another one. I know this is a very entertaining thing to watch and listen to with me scrolling through job openings.
So while you keep looking, I'll answer for Dr. Ozzy here.
It is just the Jets and the Titans. I guess I imagined the third job. So
no, yeah, Ozzy. I don't anticipate there being other people from the front office that would potentially get GM roles. I mean, maybe there's an opportunity after the draft for, maybe there's a VP of player personnel or something that allows somebody to kind of move up, whether it's with Ryan Poles or if Bergonzi were to go somewhere else, or if Brant Tillis maybe wants to try to get somebody in Carolina type of thing. But, no, I don't anticipate there being other people to leave for GM-specific jobs yet.
I mean, the outside Bergonzi, and I mean, I've never really asked Chris Shea if he's interested in a GM job. I mean, I think I think he'd be good at it if he wanted to be, but I just don't know if that's where he wants to go next. Probably the two guys I think who would be most likely in the pipeline, but probably wouldn't be candidates this cycle just because, I mean, if there's only going to be two jobs, then, it just really limits the number of opportunities. But, Mike Bradway, I think, is going to be a GM in this league one day. Tim Terry would like to be a GM in this league one day, and he's been a part of a lot of the programs that the NFL has been doing to try and promote, minority promotions and jobs and getting them into GM positions. And Tim Terry's a great football mind and a great talent evaluator. He's director of player personnel and pro scouting. I mean, he's been in every part of the football administration side for the Chiefs. I mean, I think he'd be a great GM. And there's others that are, further down that just need more, experience and everything, but I think are kind of on the, the rise. But those are the names, but I'm with Nick. I mean, I don't think that at this point, just because of the number of jobs that are open, there's not going to be a huge amount of turnover. I mean, I think Bergonzi's got the best chance of anybody. He's done enough, and I think he deserves an opportunity. I think he'd be a good GM. And honestly, the Jets, I think that'd be a great fit. It just depended on the ownership, letting him do his job and not coming into his office with Madden ratings. But your mileage may vary, Nick.
Yep, it might.
See, there was Jay Gar asking about bye week enthusiast Nick Jacobs.
Sorry, it's excessive snow this week.
Albert, I saw your question, and I had to do the math on that one. Yes, Blake Lynch, by my math, Nick made $62,000, $62,058, I believe, this week. That was his minimum salary. So a decent amount of work, for one game. I saw enough of that, though, that, hey, if the Chiefs wanted to sign him to a reserve future contract, I know he's a little bit an older guy, but played really well, Nick, especially for a guy who'd only been there for like 6 days.
No. Sorry, I don't have anything else about it.
There you go. I can you I did, before you got here, Nick, I did acknowledge that a neighbor, whether it was the one that I talked smack on or not, but someone plowed my driveway. So
I promise you it wasn't me.
I know you were stuck on the plaza.
Yeah, that happened. No, I couldn't get back in time for
that. Chris, college overtime strategy. If first possession team gets 7 and second possession team gets a touchdown, shouldn't the second team go for 2 and end it? Why kick and extend when you have a chance to win it right there?
It's like a really long word problem.
It is, but I mean, now that college football has gone to that, where you have to go for 2 on the second touchdown, I'm with Chris. I've been thinking about this all throughout the college football playoff, especially during the Texas-Arizona State game. I was like, I really don't see. I mean, if you've got your one play, I don't see why you wouldn't run it if you're the team that has the. I mean, I just don't see why, if you're the team that played defense, you get the second possession in the first overtime. I don't see why you just don't do your 1 2 point conversion play there, your money play, because you're going to have to use it eventually. You're going to have to use it either in the second overtime or the third overtime when you have to start running it for real. I mean, I feel like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like I think the analytics are on your side there, but
I think it's just the fear of failure. They don't want to have to do it till their backs are against the wall.
that's, I guess, part of it. But and sometimes it's not even just, as we know, sometimes it's not even understanding the rules. So sometimes the guys in the NFL don't understand the overtime rules, Nick.
Yeah, tough break.
Nick, do you have any New Year's resolutions that you wanted to share?
No, I don't do this. I just keep on keeping on.
I did make some goals. I'm already behind on all my goals, though. So
It's all right, Matt. You still got, I don't know, 350 more days to get all figured out.
and I'm only one of my goals was to go through the questions in the Q&A faster, and we're up to 708.
So you're doing pretty well, or what? I don't
50,
know.
55 minutes behind. So
Yeah, well, when I leave at 8:30,
lightning round. Who do you think has a better chance to get upset this weekend, Bills or Ravens?
I don't. Steelers are a fractured football team. I don't think they're. I don't think that's happening. The Bo Nix is going to have to play the game of his life. Bills are going to have to not be able to rattle Bo Nix, and then the Broncos are going to have to be able to stop James Cook and Khalil Shakur. And if they can do that, then they maybe have a chance to upset the Bills. But even then, I still think the Bills and Ravens are moving on.
Yeah, the Broncos have a chance. I don't think the Steelers have any chance, but
no, not with Russ Wilson. Not with Russ at quarterback.
Have you done a mock draft simulation yet, Nick?
No, I'm not worried about the NFL draft till after the Chiefs season's over.
I'm with you. I'm with you there. Sorry, yeah, I am with you there. So I'm sorry. Yeah, I won't be doing a mock draft simulation until the Chiefs season is over. So if you're lucky, sometime in February.
Got enough on my plate, man. I'm not adding more.
Yeah, that's all. Andrew. Yeah, I mean, Broncos have a shot. I mean, but to me, it's like 10 to 20%. I mean, I feel like the Steelers have like a 2% chance against the Ravens, but
yeah, Bo Nix decides if the Broncos have a shot or not. I'm not kidding you on that. Bo Nix will decide that.
Yes, and I assume that he's going to make some mistakes because he didn't make any mistakes last weekend. Could Spags go to New England and rectify his reputation there as a head coach? I mean, I think they should already in New England. They may hate Spags, but they should acknowledge that he's a great coach because he kept beating them as a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I got a feeling New England's head coach is going to be Mike Brable or Ben Johnson. So I don't think you have to worry about it.
That certainly seems to be the momentum. And I feel like Mike Vrabel is probably either going to be in New England or Vegas, but
I think it'll either be Chicago or New England, personally. I think New England's the front runner with Chicago in second.
Is there any other team with that kind of speeds at end?
Versus who? What are we talking about?
That's what I was wondering. I was thinking maybe it was the Broncos, but Jedi, let us know, and we'll try. If you're still around, we'll try and it says I prefer average left tackle and elite left guard. So if you want that, then I think you're talking about needing Joe Thuney at left guard and DJ Humphries at left tackle.
I don't think Chiefs will go that way in the playoffs, personally.
This is the only mock draft comment that I have right now, which is that I do think that Luther Burden needs to be a Kansas City Chief. But
well, he would get utilized a lot better than he did in Missouri.
Lightning round. With Nagy getting a lot of interest at head coach, if he goes, do you think you see Doug Peterson, Eric Bieniemy, or a promotion from within for the Chiefs offensive coordinator?
I would be surprised if Doug Peterson comes back to Kansas City. I think that time has passed. Like Eric Bieniemy's time has passed here in Kansas City. No matter how many fans keep trying to recreate that reunion. If there was a promotion from within, I feel like Joe Blameyer's kind of would intrigue me in that front. But I'm totally for them going outside the organization if there's somebody that could bring some additional fresh ideas and really kind of keep other defenses on their toes.
Now there's a really good question. I have to be very careful with the wording of this because I have to fulfill my promise from earlier. So what does Nick think the Cincinnati team is doing? Who is going to be on their new staff? Will they franchise tag Chase? Sorry, but this is a laughable franchise.
So proud of you, Matt. You did a great job. First part we already covered, so don't need to cover that again. I have no idea who's going to be on their new staff, but we'll find out. And then if they're smart, they'll tag Chase twice, and if he's smart, he'll sit out, and then they'll just move on with their lives at some point, and he can go be somewhere else in like 3 years. But maybe they really do want to pay him and pay him $36 million a year, and if they do, it's just smart business and keeps Joe Burrow happy. But I don't. They're definitely not paying him and T. Higgins, and then if they pay Chase, I think they're gonna let a lot of other players walk, and it's just gonna be Burrow to Chase and just a lot of other. You got to hope your GM hits on a lot of draft picks.
And then Alicia's second question: Jalen back for divisional?
I think personally, AFC Championship would kind of be the spot where if you're going to bring him back, I think that's kind of the spot to do it.
That's what I'm thinking as well. But once again, Alicia, your mileage may vary. Jedi was talking about the Broncos DNs, and I mean, that's why I was saying, Nick, about what we saw from DJ Humphries, and I said this before you got here. I mean, I think it was there's a little bit of apples and oranges comparison because one, Mahomes has been getting rid of the ball a lot more quickly than Carson Wentz was on Sunday, forcing the tackles to block a little bit longer, and two, I mean, I think that the Broncos attack the edges a lot more than the teams that they had faced the last couple of weeks, and I do think the Broncos DNs as a collective group, maybe not, and Benito individually may be faster than anybody that the Chiefs have faced off the ball in the last couple of weeks. But even I think collectively, even though the Chiefs and Joe Thuney faced some really good individual pass rushers, I mean, I feel like the Broncos may have had the most speed overall off the edge.
They're certainly up there on both fronts. I mean, they're certainly up there, but I don't know. I don't remember who else the Chiefs have played this year that would be in comparison to them. So yeah, they'd probably be in the top 3.
Okay, let's see here. All right, lost track of where I was again. Oh wait, there we go. Found Alicia's question. Who from Chiefs comments? Who would be your dark horse or unexpected major contributor on either side of the ball in the playoffs, or who would you like to see have a standout performance?
It's almost like they might have watched our Sunday sound off question. That's eerily similar to a Sunday sound off question this past Sunday. The person you really want to see be able to contribute that and have really kind of a great game would be one. Jaden Hicks is one that you'd really like to see be able to kind of be a really key difference maker, force some turnovers, and get the ball back to the offense. And then a guy you really want to see crush it in the playoffs and have himself a monster game is a man by the name of Kareem Hunt. Because if he can go off in the playoffs, then the Chiefs become really unstoppable at that point. Because they'll have the pass game down, run game down, take people to church, and go get that three-peat. And then he gets his redemption story of finally winning the championship with the team that he always wanted to win the championship with.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely on board on the Jaden Hicks train. That if he has a big play, I've also convinced myself that I think Trent McDuffie is going to have a tremendous postseason. So we'll see what happens there. Offensively, I mean, I think you're right. I mean, if Kareem Hunt has an MVP run in the next 3 games, I mean, that could be the difference about what makes this Chiefs postseason team just different. So, Nick, I am going to put you in charge of this next question briefly. well, not briefly. You probably get to expand on it for a couple of minutes. So I'm going to turn it on over to you, and because Jesus was nice enough to chip in with the super chat.
All right, as I begin my stall for Matt while he steps away. All right, so with George Karlaftis, I consider a complimentary player. So as a pass rusher, I think he is a part of part of a defensive line, part of a pass rush, but I think he needs a lead dog in front of him like Chris Jones. And when he's paired with Chris Jones and Charles Omenihu, I think Karlaftis can take advantage of his one-on-ones and be able to kind of be a piece of the puzzle, not necessarily the centerpiece of a puzzle or a cinnamon roll, because those are delightful too. And I'm going to eat one here in a little bit from Corner Cafe after we get done here. But that's all I'll say about that. So Karlaftis, I would not pay top dollar to. Trent McDuffie, the thing about Trent McDuffie is you don't have a lot of corners behind him in the pipeline that you can just replace him with like they've done in the past with L'Jarius Sneed and Charvarius Ward. And because whenever you moved on from Charvarius Ward and didn't pay his money, didn't pay him top dollar and let him go to the 49ers, you had Sneed and then you had McDuffie. Then when Sneed left, you had McDuffie. Now, behind him, you don't necessarily have anything that can kind of take over to where you're not forced to pay. So this is the time where somebody like Trent McDuffie, who is starting to become a leader in the secondary and starting to really take over that mantle, this is where you're probably going to have to pay Trent McDuffie top dollar. And in an ideal world, this upcoming offseason, you start to try to find that number 2 corner that could either replace Watson if he moves ahead in free agency, or can be the heir apparent in 3 years to Trent McDuffie whenever you have to make a decision on if the money you paid for his new contract is able to match what he was doing on the football field, and if he avoided injury and did all those things combined. So on those aspects and everything, I think Karlaftis is really going to go as Chris Jones go. As long as Chris Jones keeps taking on double teams, and like I said, as long as Omenihu's there, and you have Mike Dana helping out, then that's where you can kind of, I think Karlaftis can make a supporting cast amount, if that makes sense. But I don't think paying him top dollar is the road I would go down. And Matt's back, so I don't have to stall anymore.
Well, and I know we've talked about this enough, Nick, that I can
15-minute warning, Matt.
That I can probably safely say that what you said goes double for me. So
15-minute warning, Matt. See how many questions you can get through before I go bye-bye in the car.
I have to bring it.
I'm putting the pressure on you, and you've already lost 5 seconds there.
Well, I know, but
the producer in my mind says you just lost 10 seconds now.
But Scott had the super chat, and I have to try and get around, the Cincinnati element of it.
There's no question, though. You don't have to say anything.
I can just pop it up. I can just let it stand, Scott. So there you go. Trying to fulfill my promise to Peter, and I'm not doing.
You want me to help with your New Year's resolution? I'm putting pressure on you to be efficient and effective in our questions.
I see that.
You only got me for 15 more minutes, and I go by.
Brian, what do you want to bring back guys that have done nothing but fail since they left, like EB and Doug Peterson?
I know Brian's not talking to me. He's talking to general fans. So.
And not talking, yeah. And Doug Peterson didn't completely fail because he does have a Super Bowl.
He certainly does have a Super Bowl. And he's been aces ever since Philadelphia.
And Doug might be the one that is a little bit of, why is there nostalgia? Because, all the Chiefs' glory has been since Doug left the first time. So he doesn't really have the stink of Lombardi on him as much as others do, even though he has his own Super Bowl, but it's from Philadelphia. We don't care.
Yep.
Nick, how worried are you about Harrison Butker missing kicks?
It's not good. And Dave Toe's reaction on the sidelines was not good to see either. So you're hoping Harrison gets that figured out, because if it comes down to a game-winning kick and he's got to be the one who makes it right now, I don't know if it's a situation you really want to put him in with the fact he's missed 2 or 3 at this point since he came back from that knee scope.
And one we knew he was going to miss. I mean, when they had the miscommunication on that 29-yarder that when Winchester and Ariza were still on the sideline and they were trying to get the crew out there, I mean, I just knew from the look on Harrison's face he was going to miss that kick. So I don't think it had anything to do with the knee. I think that was all about the miscommunication. But I don't know. I mean, I haven't. It has not risen to a worry for me yet because Harrison Butker has a history of being there when it's on. I mean, he has gone through slumps before. He has had issues. He's never had a postseason slump. He's never had significant issues in the postseason. He has been one of the best kickers. I mean, for someone who has kicked as much as he has in the playoffs, I mean, he and once again Justin Tucker are two of the best in the business when it comes to the postseason. So I just don't have a whole lot of worries. I mean, and I don't think that there's an answer out there. There's nobody that you're going to get at this point right now that's better than Harrison Butker. Ethan, a bit of a logistics question, but did the equipment staff give the players brand new gear and equipment every game? If not, what items are worn multiple times per season?
Absolutely no idea.
I
It's
mean,
not been something that's been a passion project of mine to go find out the answer to.
I mean, I do not know the specifics. I mean, I know that, I think what was it? Was it Travis that had the story about wearing the same socks every week? Or was that Mahomes? It was somebody who had the story about wearing the lucky socks every week.
Yeah.
Obviously, for the most part, they all get new jerseys every week because a lot of the players trade them after the game. But I mean, like helmets, pads, all that stuff. I mean, that's for the most part. It's they wear it till the wears out. So, but you know what, Ethan? I mean, I know enough people. I'm gonna bring this up again, and I will promise you that I'm gonna ask some of the people I know. I'll try and get a good answer for you on that. Steeman Demon, did you see enough Sunday to let Trey Smith walk and keep Bolton, or let Bolton walk and keep Trey Smith? Don't think you can keep both or tag one of them. What do you think? What I mean, Nick, did you see enough on Sunday, or does anything that happened on Sunday even factor into your consideration when you're thinking about signing both those guys?
Look, here's the reality. No matter how many times I get asked it, I'm going to say the same thing every single time. You re-sign Trey Smith because he's one of the leaders of your offensive line. He's the one guy, no matter what, that can bury people in the dirt and take their souls. You pay for people that take people's souls on the offensive line, and you put nothing but ice in their soul and make them sad. You take their will away. That's what you're supposed to do. Trey Smith is like that winter storm that came into Kansas City and just took the will of everybody to move around the greater Kansas City area because there was ice everywhere on the skating rink. It took my will to drive home to the Northland. I was like, I would rather live and be able to do this Q&A next week. So, hey, work, can you get me a hotel? And they did twice. Thank you, KSHB 41, for that, because they like the work I do. Like, we'd like to have him, come back here too. So, Trey Smith, pay him his money. Pay this man his money. Nick Bolton, he's a leader of the defense. We'll see what happens with Steve Spagnuolo, but I think Nick Bolton is a lot more tied to Steve Spagnuolo and his scheme than I think he would be with other defensive coordinators personally. Doesn't mean Nick Bolton's not a great leader. Doesn't mean that Nick Bolton's not a fast talker at press conferences. It just means I wouldn't pay him top dollar personally. I would let him test the market. If he finds a number that gets him 16, 18, 20 millions a year, congratulations, go take that. But for the Chiefs, I wouldn't be paying more than 10 or 11 because he's a limited athlete in coverage. He's a good downhill run support guy. I know he gets people in the right place, but there are limitations to his ability. Ooh, 10-minute warning, Matt.
10-minute warning. I do need to note quickly. I had someone last week who noted that you got on to me for making poker references, and yet you routinely quote rounders.
I quote something that says, "Pay this man his money."
Who do you think has the potential for more long-term success in the AFC West? Harbaugh and Herbert, or Peyton and Nix?
Harbaugh and Herbert.
I am in that same ballpark. I might be underselling Bo Nix, but Harbaugh and Herbert worries me.
Until Bo Nix knows how to be able to stand tall against the blitz on a regular basis, he's going to have some problems here and there.
Chris, is the offensive line, both players and coaching staff, the number one priority in the offseason?
I don't know. Hope it is, but we'll find out. I mean, they've already made it a priority because they've drafted and thrown so many resources at it. The simple fact is you have to properly develop it. That's the real thing. You may need a left tackle. You might need a new left tackle. You could potentially need that. So I would figure out that left tackle situation in the offseason. Whatever you do with Joe Tinney is what you do with Joe Tinney, but you have guys behind him that you can develop and need to be developed. And if I were them, re-sign Trey Smith.
Trent McDuffie is eligible to sign an extension now. McDuffie is KSHB 12. I think this is one of the different projections out there. Projected to sign a 4-year, $90 million contract, which would be an average annual value of 22.5. The Chiefs do something odd and sign him. Would that be odd, Nick?
I wouldn't do it till after you figure out what you're going to do in free agency. Trent Duffy's a move that if you make, I make that in like June and July. Like, work out what you need to get worked out with money elsewhere. Then you start to work on that later in the year. So like this whole, hey, let's sign him. Let's sign him right now. Yeah, no, don't. Right now you need to figure out what you're taking off the books and what you're putting on the books in March. And right now you just need to worry about the playoffs.
The Chiefs' historical philosophy generally has been to sign guys when they don't have as much money available under the cap. So it gives a natural leverage point for them to be able to simply say, we don't have that much, so we can do this.
No.
Do you think the Chiefs offer Humphries a contract beyond this year with all these problems?
Here's what I'm going to say about him. That leg's not 100%. He's still favoring it. His kick step's still not right based off of it. So, one, I wouldn't be starting him in the playoffs. And two, if he wants to sign the vet minimum and kind of continue to work and train and everything, that's fine. But I'm still trying to go find a legit left tackle in the offseason, and he happens to be playing for the Baltimore Ravens right now. So if he hits free agent market, that's who I go after if he can pass a physical and you think he's going to be all right.
Yeah, I think to me, DJ Humphries is kind of the same philosophy that would be with Donovan Smith the last couple of years. Probably not the first answer, but if you get to May and June and you haven't fixed it yet and he's available, maybe that point where you have a conversation again. I should probably, you know what, Gabo, I'm going to save this because Nick only has 7 more minutes, and Nick and I could talk about Super Bowl Media Day for like half an hour. So. Brian, have you tried swapping Cook for Hicks? It seems like he might learn faster next to Reed. Maybe just talk about, depth chart wise, playing him full time rather than having Brian Cook come in on occasion rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do that. I think what they've done is what they're going to stick with.
I think that is what they're going to stick with, but I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I try to get Jaden Hicks on the field as much as possible, but those two guys are probably your starters next year, right?
Who?
Cook and Hicks.
I'll put it bluntly, man. I'm trying to find somebody to replace Hicks. Not Hicks. Cook. Sorry, Hicks is going to be one of your starters. Cook, you're trying to find somebody to compete with against them, and if he can't regain the acceleration, you hope to have somebody that can replace his acceleration.
I think Brother Rick was asking about Marlon Tuipulotu last week. Still didn't see a ton of him on Sunday, Nick, but a little bit more.
Saw a little bit of him out there. Didn't see much of an impact. Sorry, Rick.
Saw a little bit more of Joshua Uche. Which he's putting Uche off the ball. Is this a little peek at a possible 3-4 front in the future?
No, I don't think Uche is going to be a part of the Chiefs' long-term plans.
Probably won't, and I don't think it's necessarily a peek at a 3-4 front, but I think Uche is definitely indicative of the Chiefs and Brett Veach trying to give maybe Steve Spagnuolo a chess piece that he can use. And I mean, maybe he's brought in for a specific team, a specific opponent down the road, but I'm not sure it's worked out exactly the way maybe the Chiefs thought that it might.
Nope, don't think it has. Sorry.
Yes or no on bringing on Tyreek Hill back for Tyreek Hill round 2?
No, Tyreek Hill's a drama queen. I'm good, thanks. Teams moved on without him, won Super Bowls without him, and he's going to be 31 this year. By the time he potentially figures out that he wants to try to win another Super Bowl, he'll be 32 and he'll start to slow down and he won't be the player he was before.
Thomas, Nico or McColl for the playoffs, or is there a chance both of them make the roster for the playoffs?
I think they're just trying to give themselves an option with McColl. I think McColl would have a bigger impact on the offense. I think Nico is a fearless returner, and I like Nico as a returner, but McColl's going to offer more overall collectively in both special teams, as long as he catches a football. That's the number one hurdle that you always have with him as a returner, is that he not only catches a football, but holds on to the football when he takes a hit.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I think you're right. I mean, McColl gives you great insurance if you get an injury over the next game or two. I think his practice window will take him up to the AFC Championship game, so you wouldn't need to activate him for the divisional round, but you get at least an option there. And I'm not even, I mean, I don't even think it's necessarily even Nicole or Nico. I mean, I think there could be a scenario where you have both those guys on the roster. Dougie P to replace Nagy. I don't. I just don't think it's going to happen, Nick. I mean, I think you're right. I don't think Dougie P's coming back. Everybody,
Yeah,
and I
he
know
can go be an OC somewhere else.
we got a lot of questions about that. Any interest in Spags? I haven't heard anything, and I'm like Jedi, Nick. I haven't heard anything either.
Nothing's come out publicly yet about any team placing a request, and normally somebody in the league office or coach's agent's pretty good about leaking that out.
Brad, is Patrick going to finally figure out to start gunning instead of being worried about shell defense?
I don't know what that question's. I don't.
I mean, I get, Brad. I get your point. You're not a big fan of Matt Nagy. I'm not sure I understand. I don't think there's been anything that he hasn't figured out. It's just
I got nothing for this question.
oh, okay. We've talked about Bolton and Trey Smith, Justin Reed and Hollywood. Nick,
Hollywood, yes. Justin Reed, I want to see if he's healed up from the quad injury or not. And I still don't think he's going to take third or fourth safety money. I think he's going to want to get starter money somewhere else if I'm in his shoes.
Nick, now you're getting ready to head out. Any questions you've seen that you want to make sure you hit, or
no? I'm good with whatever. I'll give you two more.
I like Chris wanting to get you to the College World Series in Nebraska and add another state.
Yeah, we already acknowledged it a while ago.
And have ice cream. I know,
but in real time. That was in real time, Matt.
It was in real time, and I didn't see it in real time. So it's now my opportunity to catch up and enjoy the evening with everyone.
Oh, man.
DJ, with all the known names of potential head coach positions, are you worried any of them will poach some of the Chiefs' position coaches? And if so, who would you be looking at losing?
I mean, with the Chiefs, like the kicker of it is right now, if the Chiefs have a long postseason run, other coaches are going to get antsy and probably start filling positions and roles for the most part. So unless there's a coach taking off staff, I don't know if you're going to see a ton of guys necessarily move on to new franchises.
Any team practices this week, even on the bye, or is Andy resting everyone? I mean, what I've been told, Stu, is that the players are going to get a couple extra days off this week. Sounds like that they are going to be coming back in late in the week. If Andy holds true, typically kind of what their bye week rotation is, come in on Friday. There's going to be a media availability on Friday. We'll see who player and or coach wise is available for that. Saturday is pretty much coaches watching and especially this year, we're going to be watching those AFC playoff games because they're going to be scouting all those teams that are playing on Saturday. Sunday, there's usually a little bit of a run through, and then they start, back into a normal game week. Of course, the great thing for the Chiefs, Nick, is that they're going to know by, after that first game on Sunday, who they're playing. They don't have to wait around until Sunday night or Monday night.
That's right, which means I don't have to wait around to start previewing it on our shows.
Let's see. I guess you got time for one more, Nick, before we cut you out of here. I'm trying to find a good one. Mm-hmm. It doesn't involve a team from Cincinnati. Oh, and I lost my place, Nick.
No.
I know. I mean, I could just go ahead and cut you out of here before I find a question. So there we go. We haven't talked on this for a while. Mitchell, is Pacheco good enough to be running back one after this year? I like him, but just not that impressed.
Um, look, Pacheco's got a certain running style, and it's a straight line speed running style. The hole, let's call it, is what he's going to run to. And so he's a running back that's very dependent on his offensive line being able to block. It's not necessarily him finding a cutback lane or the hole. He just doesn't have that vision for that. And his size that he has, in my opinion, it's going to continue. He's going to continue to get injured because he's a guy running into a brick wall, but he's got a mentality that allows him to run into a brick wall. But like the injury he had with his ankle and injuries he's kind of had in the past, they're going to continue to happen because his running style and his build is just going to continually wear down year after year. So that's why you're not going to pay him big money, but you do need to find a more explosive back to be able to put in to that rotation long term that has good vision.
Well, we will see what happens indeed. Nick, I appreciate you as always popping in, spending your evening with us and your free time.
All right, Matt. It's been fun. It's been real fun. But I'm going to play a game called Bye Now.
Take care, my friend. Thank you as always.
Bye. Bye.
I always appreciate Nick coming by, and I probably waste his time sometimes, but and talk too much. But I always appreciate that. I'll stick around until 9 o'clock. So if you got some more questions, I'm going to try and get through everybody's that have popped them in. Brother Rick, I did see asking the follow up about Marlon Tuipulotu, and I wish I had a better answer for you, but we really haven't seen enough of him for me to be able to have much of an assessment. And I'm kind of once again surprised by that. I mean, it's the second year in a row where the Chiefs made a move to go get somebody on a defensive line to bring him in, and then just never really seemed to figure out a way to make it work. They did the same thing with Neil Farrell last year, trading for him from the Raiders, and never really seemed to find a spot that worked for him or a role in the defense. And it feels like it's been kind of the same thing with Marlon Tuipulotu. I mean, I don't know if there's a future in him for next year. I'm assuming that he'll still be around and competing for a job, but I really don't know. I mean, at this point, he's just still merely been a depth piece, and I feel like that the Chiefs have maybe had some opportunities to get him in there and just have chosen not to, and I can't really explain that. I mean, it's a good question, and I wish I had a better answer for you, and could even give you a better assessment. But like Nick has talked about, I mean, we really just haven't seen enough of him to be able to give a really good review. I mean, especially because he wasn't here for training camp or anything of that nature. I wish, like I said, Rick, I wish I could give you a good answer. I just think it's an incomplete score with him, an incomplete grade. And I don't know what's going to happen going forward with Marlon. Gabo, this was the question that I wanted to try and bring up earlier, but I knew it was going to, if Nick and I talked about this, it would end up taking the entire rest of the evening. And as I know from the number of states that Nick has been to, Nick hasn't had a chance to cover a Super Bowl media day. I have, and I have to tell you, I mean, you're talking about the photo of Mahomes and Kelsey with the sea of people in front. How does media day work? They ask in order, or is Hunger Games the first one that can ask? It is definitely more Hunger Games, Gabo, than anything else. And there's a couple of parts of media week, and because there's multiple media opportunities throughout Super Bowl week. Opening night on Monday night is the first one, and that is absolutely freaking insane. The NFL will pretty much credential anyone on the planet for opening night. And you get a lot of odd things. You get some reality stars in there. You get some morning shock jocks that don't even do sports shows that come out and will do interviews, and they'll do hit and runs, and you have about usually I think it's 12 to 15 players and coaches that are on podiums. I guess it's a little bit more than that because they do the same teams separately, but back to back. So you have I guess it's more like 18 maybe coaches and players who are on podiums. And opening night runs about an hour and a half. And so what happens is that, you got those players and coaches who are at a podium, and then people just come and it's hit and run. And for like Mahomes and Kelsey, the bigger stars, and Andy Reid, there will just be a scrum around them that you pretty much just have to fight your way in there if you want a question. It's not, I mean, and on top of that, it ends up being a complete and total repeat because, what you'll have is somebody who comes in there, spends their 5 minutes, gets their questions, leaves, and then somebody else comes in. And inevitably, you end up hearing the exact same question asked 35 times. They make an audio available to these, and they do get shown on NFL Network. I don't think the NFL Network or anything. I don't think any NFL Network shows an entire feed. They did do that during COVID, where they gave us Zooms of all of them. They do make audio available of all the podium appearances, and so I've gone back and listened to those in the past, and that's where my dislike of those really comes from. Because, like I said, you get the same question asked 35 times, and it gets really monotonous after a while. But just even trying to get through those podiums, it's ridiculous. And like I said, you have like 15, 18 players and coaches who are there. Usually I think the coordinators will be at one of those podiums. And then your 10 or 12 biggest players. So, Chris Jones will be on a podium. Nick Bolton, Justin Reed will probably be at a podium. Big names like that. And then the rest of the roster is just wandering around. So last year in Vegas, it was actually held in Reliance Stadium. Or Alliance Stadium, excuse me. It was actually held in the stadium on the floor of the football field. So, and they had I'm trying to remember. I think they had a covering over the field, so it wasn't the turf itself. But you just go in there, and it's just you have a section of the field that's been cordoned off for the stage and everything, and the coaches and all the players come out, and then anyone who's not on a podium that is a coach, player. There's basically a list of who has to be out there. So some front office people, assistant coaches that we don't ever see, guys like Mike Frazier, who I love to talk to. It's the only time of the year that we get to talk to Mike Frazier because he's out there wandering around. All the practice squad players, guys who are on IR, anything like that, they're available. So you can go through and walk and talk to all of these players and coaches and personnel people. And that's really cool. I mean, like I said, it's one of the few times that's an option. But opening night, Monday night, is just absolute chaos. Then, during the week, so Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, there's then a availability with each of the teams at their team hotels. So there's a space that's set off, and sometimes there's a lot of space available, and sometimes, like last year in Vegas, where the Chiefs were at and their hotel was at, it was an extremely tight fit. So there would be, for instance, like the Chiefs, God grief, they had some. Basically like 6-person tables, and they would have 4 players a table. So there might be room for 2 reporters to sit down, and then otherwise you were just kind of standing around and talking to people that way. It can be a really good one-on-one experience because it's limited to a smaller group. It's not as many reporters who are there. It's a lot of it's local media, national media. It's not any of the same group that's available on Monday night when you've much fewer national cameras. Anything, ESPN will have some people there going from table to table, but not as many TV cameras as there are on Monday night. Definitely not as many radio hosts and podcast hosts as there is on Monday night. So it's like I said, it's mostly just big national media and the local media from each team. It's there, so it's a more intimate group, but it's still probably a couple of hundred reporters. For, like I said, maybe 90 to 100 people between coaches and players, front office personnel. There's some people available, and usually like on the last day for us, it's great because usually Brett Veach and his staff are available to just the local media. They'll go off into a separate room for a little bit, and we get the guy to go talk to them, and it's just local and nobody else. That's great. I mean, it gives us a chance to have conversations that we can't have the rest of the time. Usually during this time, Clark Hunt and Mark Donovan have a session with us, so that's helpful. And it's much less chaotic on those days at the team hotels, so you do get a chance to maybe have some small one-on-one conversations. I mean, it's still nonstop and hard to get in with the big names. I mean, it's still going to be, they still have some podiums. So there'll be a podium for Patrick and Travis, and like I said, about a dozen players. There is some rotation, so it's a different, other than Patrick and Travis are always going to be on a podium, and Chris Jones, those kind of things. It's then some of the other players, like one day it might be Harrison Butker maybe at a podium, another day it may be Nick Bolton. I mean, so it differs a little bit there, and that's where the cameras are. They're going to go to the podiums. They're not going to be usually wandering around at those tables. So it's a little bit different, but it is Hunger Games. I'm not going to lie. I mean, it really is. If you've got some questions to ask, I mean, even the opportunity to ask, 2 or 3 questions in a row, it's really hard unless you're focusing on stories about players who don't draw as much of a crowd. And, that's kind of, where I've tried to, be my bread and butter, because once again, I mean, there's 48 cameras on Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. So normally, hey, what I'm trying to do in my business model, honestly and frankly, is to try and give you something different that you're not getting from everybody else. So I get it. You're going to be, there's going to be clips of Travis and Patrick and everything from those podiums, but there's not that going on at the tables. So that's why, hey, I'm talking to Chris Oladokin and talking about his, Super Bowl experience, or talking about, James Winchester. Last year that was kind of, I did a story going around that day because Toby Keith had passed away. And so I'd gone through and talked to all of the different players from Oklahoma who had some experience with him. Sometimes those things pop up, and those are, it's great at the Super Bowl. Those, because you do have more availability that week than anywhere else. But it is absolute chaos. There is no organization. There's some organization to it, but at the same time, I mean, it's a lot of going on in a really tight, loud space. I mean, it's chaotic. It's crazy. So, I've probably gone more into it than you needed or even asked for, but it is an incredible experience. I mean, it's on one hand, I mean, it's really interesting, and you get to talk to people and have conversations that you can't at any other time of the year. I mean, other than maybe running into some people in the front office on game day, or running into them in a hallway somewhere. I mean, that's about the only time you might see them. And some, guys like, we get to see a little bit more of Mike Bergonzi than we used to, because some of the new rules, and the Chiefs will put some of their scouts up during the draft. That's the only time of the year that we get to see them. But then at the Super Bowl, everybody's there, and you get to kind of have some conversations and talk to people either on or off the record, and have discussions that you can't have any other time of the year. That's why, I mean, this Chiefs run of Super Bowls has been incredible for that. I mean, it's certainly helped me be able to meet people and have relationships with people that otherwise you wouldn't get. So it's very valuable. I'm hoping, knock on wood, the Chiefs go through it again, because every year it gets the more you do it, it gets a little bit easier. But it's absolutely insane, and I wish I could. And this year, maybe if the Chiefs make it, knock on wood, maybe I can, shoot at least like a couple of minute video of walking around the floor, so I can give you all maybe a little bit of an experience about what it's like, because it is Hunger Games. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Let's see, where else were we going through there? I know I'm trying to avoid all your Bengals questions. I'm trying not to beat the Bengals thing too much into the ground. And I said the name. I shouldn't have even said that. I was trying to stick with Cincinnati. And yeah, we've talked a lot about DJ Humphries tonight. So there's Mitchell's question about Pacheco. So I've kind of gotten back to where I wanted to be. And Alex, this was the question. I wanted to try and get this in with Nick before he left because I was really intrigued about what he would think about this. But could Leo Chanel move to the Mike linebacker if the Chiefs move on from Bolton, like Casey can do with letting some of their free agents walk? No, you have Drew, but Leo feels like a good fit too. That's really intriguing to me, Alex, because when the Chiefs drafted Leo, it was with the expectation that, he could be a guy who eventually becomes a middle linebacker, who does become a Mike linebacker. And I think he's got a lot of that skill set that would be great for that. And he's a smart player. So I don't think that calling the defenses and setting it and lining everybody up, I don't think that would be too much of a job for him. But I mean, the Chiefs have certainly tried to carve out a role for him that now is further away from the mics than it's ever been. I mean, they're lining him up more on ball on the line of scrimmage than his rookie year. I think he's improved as far as the pass coverage goes. I think he's improved even as like a weak side linebacker who has to patrol sideline to sideline a little bit more. I think he's improved there. Obviously, he's played some strong, so he's lining up on the tight end. He can handle that. I mean, the Chiefs have used him as a multi-utility piece, especially that linebacker spot, but they haven't used him at all for the most part at Mike. And even when they get opportunities this weekend, Cam Jones handled the Mike linebacker spot. I mean, I fully expect that, especially when the Chiefs signed Drew Tranquill. Drew Tranquill was, with that contract that he signed last year, that was Nick Bolton insurance. That was, if you can't get something done with Nick Bolton, well, at least you've got Drew Tranquill now signed up, and he can be your Mike linebacker. And I've got no indication that the Chiefs really have considered moving kind of Leo back into that mold. I think they're really happy with him as an outside linebacker. I think they like being able to put him on the line of scrimmage as well. I think, as much as I think that he would be a good Mike linebacker, especially from the downhill aspects of it, I mean, all indications are that, between not only Spags, but Brendan Daly and Joe Cullen, because Leo does spend some time in the defensive line meetings and does spend time working with Joe Cullen as an edge rusher and an outside guy and that's nature and on the ball. I think they just feel really comfortable with him in that spot. And so I don't see, he seems further away from the middle linebacker spot than he did the night that he was drafted. Because the night that he was drafted, the Chiefs were talking about him as a potential, hey, at least a backup Mike linebacker, somebody who could play all three spots. But now they really just kind of, see him as really just an outside, either strong side or weak side guy. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Especially when you've got either Nick Bolton or Drew Tranquill. And we'll see. They've got a couple of other guys, Jack Cochran, like I said, Cam Jones. They've got other players that they have moved through as the backup Mike linebacker. But it's just that the last couple of years, they've shown no signs whatsoever of having any interest in Leo, playing the Mike spot. And I can't tell you why, other than they just feel really good about where he is and don't feel the need to add anything else to his portfolio. So now this is the thing I wish I talked about Nick about, because less about that team in Cincinnati, but more about Lou Anarumo, because Nick brought this up, the moment that the Bengals fired their defensive coordinator, was that the Chiefs need to bring him in as a consultant for the next couple of weeks, just to be able, some of the insight that he could offer, Steve Spagnuolo, but also some insight that he could probably even offer to Andy Reid and Matt Nagy about how he has defended Mahomes, and maybe about some of the options about countering that. I think that would be huge. You just kind of check the Lou Anarumo to come in for a couple of weeks and be a consultant. It's not going to keep him from getting a job elsewhere next year, be a defensive coordinator somewhere. he can do both. I mean, we've seen it. We've seen coaches who come in and do this. Vrabel was obviously a consultant this year for the Browns, and now his contract is up. And yeah, I'm trying to remember who was the Eagles had a consultant, a couple of years ago that came in for them. That was kind of in the same role that Anarumo is now. Was fired and just came in and was a consultant for a few weeks. I'd love to see Lou Anarumo come in and do that for the Chiefs, is just be a consultant for a couple of weeks, pick his brain. I think it'd be a win-win for both of them. We'll see what happens though. Um, I can't imagine, for the same reasons that Nick kind of listed off in his rant. Tyreek's got too much money that's due to him in the next couple of years. I don't think that that team in Cincinnati has any interest in paying. So, no, I don't think that they will pull that off. And I know, I mean, yeah, it's supposedly Rico. I mean, the Dolphins think that they've smoothed things over with Tyreek. Everybody thinks they smooth things over with Tyreek at some point, but you just never know what's next with Tyreek, bless his heart. KC Chiefs 12. Jets are seriously considering hiring Rex. Rex Ryan would be hilarious to run all of his anti-Chiefs rants before playing them. I mean, I have to assume that the Jets are doing some of this as just humoring him. I can't imagine any way whatsoever that the Jets are actually considering hiring Rex Ryan, because being out of coaching that long and coming back, I mean, it's never really worked. I mean, Joe Gibbs is probably one of the more successful guys that kind of did it. I mean, Dick Vermeil, I guess, would be in that conversation as well, because he was out of coaching for that was probably close to 10 years, wasn't it, before he came back? Maybe it was more than 10 years. And so maybe Dick Vermeil's your guy as far as the most successful one. But Rex, I just can't imagine it. And if they do, if the Jets hired Rex Ryan, they would move up several notches on my list of teams that don't know what they're doing. I mean, they might be able to challenge for the number one. I'm actually going to do a piece on that here this week and put it down in writing, so I can start being held accountable for that. Just I think, because I think it's a legitimate point that there's just at any one time a quarter of this league organizationally that is just so backwards that I mean, they just don't know what they're doing. I mean, we talk, I wasn't a big fan of the book. If anybody is, and so many of you have had to read like the Jim Collins Good to Great stuff. And I know there's disclaimers about, everything's in a mindset, a snapshot, but it just struck me that of all the companies that were in the Good to Great list, that half of them, like went bankrupt or disappeared not long after the book came out. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the NFL, I mean, companies are the same way. A lot of companies don't know what they're doing, and they make a lot of dumb mistakes. NFL teams are the same way. There are companies that make dumb mistakes. And like I said, there's a quarter of them at any one time that don't know what they're doing. If the Jets actually did that, they would be number one on my list of teams that just do not know how any of this works. Stu, it'd be great to see the Chargers and Broncos win this weekend, and the Chiefs play the Broncos with the Chiefs varsity team this time. Thoughts on the chance that happens? I mean, I haven't seen the odds on that. I'm assuming that the computer sims and that kind of thing would probably say that the Chargers Broncos have a halfway decent chance. They probably, I'm assuming, would probably put it at least in the 30 to 35% category. I mean, I think it's lower than that. I mean, I think that, I think that the Bills win that more often than not. So I don't think it's a great chance. I mean, and obviously if you get the Broncos and the Chargers to win, you start talking about the possibility that the Chargers and Rams host the conference championship games, and nobody wants to see that. But no, I mean, I mean, as good as I think that the Chargers are, and worrisome as I think the Chargers are, if you set up a scenario where the Chiefs got to face the Broncos in the divisional round, and all of a sudden the Chargers, go in and knock off the Ravens. I think if I'm the Chiefs, I'd rather face as good as, even though I say that the Chargers are the one team I would not want to face in the divisional round, that they're the best team that you could face. I think that they're probably one of the teams you'd love to face in the AFC Championship game, because I'm just not sure they're ready for that yet. I think the Ravens are. I mean, they've had some weaknesses this year, but they've been really good against playoff teams. I think they're more tested than they have been in the past. They're playing a style of football against playoff teams. And clearly, Chiefs Ravens, the first time around, came down to the very end, and it came down to a toe on the line. That was the margin of victory in that game. So, I mean, Chargers, if they could go knock off the Ravens, and all of a sudden the Chargers are coming to Kansas City for the AFC Championship game, I think you'd take that. I would absolutely take that, I think. Kent, great question. Who do you think the Chiefs will play on Thursday opening night next season? So let's face it, we are kind of acknowledging here a little bit with that question that the Chiefs are going to win the Super Bowl, knock on wood. So I don't want to be accused of cursing anything. I've got I thought I had my list here. I may have to pull it back up again. The Chiefs' opponents for next year. There we go. Because their home teams is, you got the AFC West. You've got, they're playing the AFC South next year. So you've got Houston and Indianapolis coming in, Philadelphia, Washington. You'll have Baltimore and Detroit. It could be anybody. I mean, if Chiefs played Detroit, and if the Chiefs beat Detroit in the Super Bowl, I would think Chiefs Detroit on Thursday night would be a really good possibility. Chiefs Commanders with Jalen Daniels coming in on Thursday night, I think would be big for the NFL. I think they'd love to get Jaden Daniels in that kind of game. Eagles, I think, and Broncos Chargers. Any of them. I mean, I don't think the Texans or the Colts would be that attractive. Ravens obviously would be in that conversation, but I don't think you do that 2 years in a row. I mean, if you get a chance for a Super Bowl rematch, I think you try to do that. So that was really, I think, hey, Chiefs and 49ers could have been that if the 49ers were playing the Chiefs at Arrowhead this year instead of on the road. So I think that would be one if it's Chiefs Eagles, Chiefs Commanders, Chiefs Lions. I mean, you got 3 opportunities there for a potential Super Bowl rematch. So if any of those come about, I think you've got it. There's no scenario there I wouldn't bet against the Commanders. I mean, that's just Jaden Daniels and Patrick Mahomes on Thursday night would be great for the NFL. Broncos and Chargers, I think, would also be good matchups, but man, I think that, to me, I think it would be either, if the Chiefs do win the Super Bowl, I mean, if you get a Super Bowl rematch, that would be, I think, number 1. And the number 2 option would be Chiefs Commanders if it's not a Super Bowl rematch. So that's my stab in the dark at what could happen. Let's see. Let's see what else we give. If there's any other questions, and you got any last call. So anybody who's left that you want to fire any other questions, and I'll try not to rant too much and take up too much more of your time, but we'll just kind of wrap it up here with the last couple of questions. And as always, once I finally get to the comments, since I'm usually so stuck on just the question at the time, I was talking about this every week. I know you probably all get tired of it. I do a really, really bad job of looking ahead, but have not been asked a lot about the NFC. I've been asked a lot about the AFC, but Chris, with NFC predictions and what it looks like this weekend, I mean, I like the Eagles. I think the Commanders Bucks is tough because I mean, Baker Mayfield's been playing really, really well. Commanders are just an exciting team. They're an electric team. I think they might be able to pull that one off. That's a 6-3 game that I think could favor them. And Vikings, I mean, I think they should. I think they can go in and beat the Rams. I mean, the Rams are that's a not a strong team from not a strong division. So I think the Vikings. I mean, to me, I do think that they're one of the three best teams in the NFC. So I think they can go on and beat the Rams. That would be my pick. So I think it's going to be Eagles, Commanders, and Vikings. So, that would have the Commanders in that case going to Detroit, and Eagles, Vikings. That I would probably take the Eagles at home. I think I'd take the Lions. So I guess I'm going shock in the NFC. I think it'll be a Eagles Lions NFC Championship. I can't rule out the Commanders as being. I mean, the Commanders would be my sleeper. I mean, that's the team that, if you're looking for a non, top 2, top 3 seed of either side of the playoff bracket, I think the Commanders would be the team that scares me the most, because they've got an X factor. They absolutely do. And Jaden Daniels, he can just go crazy. KSU 1989, Steven Nelson, will he play in the playoffs? I'm just not seeing it at this point. It could still happen. But the Chiefs just still continue to describe Steven Nelson as break in case of emergency, that if they get an injury at some point, that's when he would probably step in and be the next guy up. He's been around, I think, a couple of weeks now, long enough to knock off some of the rust and be ready to go if they needed him. But I don't get it this sense, that because the Chiefs have not been talking in any terms whatsoever with him about anything other than just kind of break glass in case of emergencies, in case of an injury. So I think that's still the approach that they're going with Steven Nelson, and we'll see. I mean, maybe they have a divisional round and they get through it, but the secondary doesn't play real well. Maybe that changes their philosophy. But right now, it does seem to be that he's there as just emergency depth only. Brian, with the push to reverse all the council culture, like the team names, there's also a push to see Gruden return. Will they get that done? I mean, I'll be honest, Brian, once again, to me, if you're hiring John Gruden, I just don't think that you know how the NFL works anymore. Gruden was another guy who left coaching, came back, and I saw no evidence during his tenure with the Raiders that he still had it. I mean, I get that he didn't really have a quarterback, but there was nothing that I saw during his Raiders tenure that team fought. I thought that team fought at the end of this year more for Antonio than they fought for at any time for John Gruden. And I mean, take council culture all you want. I mean, with some of the nonsense that Gruden had in those stupid emails and text messages and everything, I just don't know how you can have him being in charge of building your team culture. I just don't see it. I don't think that would be a popular hire in a locker room. I don't think it would be a popular hire in an organization. I think Gruden's, just a little bit stuck in the past. So I don't think it would be a good move. I don't think he'd be a good fit for anybody. I can't imagine him taking any team to the next level. I mean, maybe as an offensive coordinator, but I don't think I even saw enough from his time in Vegas to say that he's still the head coach, the offensive genius that he once was. I mean, I guess we'll say that. I mean, he was a really good offensive coach, but I just don't see that that's still there. So, and I mean, let's face it, with the lawsuit and the NFL and everything about that, I don't think the NFL would look favorably on any ownership group that decided to bring back John Gruden. So, Brian, appreciate you. You are always there to remind everyone to hit that like button. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you for doing that. You are the best. Luttrell, thank you. Appreciate the kind words. You might be the last, 5 or 6 left. I don't know. Maybe I probably talked too much tonight. I chased off Nick. Yeah, he had to go early. Yeah, Luttrell, I think the NFC does look tough. I mean, I think it's going to be there's some good teams over there. The AFC, I think, is a little top heavy. I mean, but the fact that like I said, I think that there's a 6 seed in the NFC that can win it. I mean, I think any of the I think anybody in the NFC could really, win that this year. I wouldn't be surprised if anybody came through. But in the AFC, if it's not one of the top three seeds, I'll be very surprised. I honestly, I mean, I think it'll be the same way for the conference championship. I mean, I think it's going to be Chiefs, Bills, Ravens. It'll be two of those three teams in the AFC championship. The way it should be, because those are the best teams. So we'll see what happens. Don't see anything else coming in. Hopefully I hit everybody's questions. If I missed your questions, always feel free to throw them into the comments section on YouTube. You can also ask me on Twitter and on Facebook. So broadcasting over there as well. Always appreciate everybody joining in on Tuesday nights, and how many of you continue to watch throughout the week and join this, the next couple of days. Always appreciate that as well. Going to work on getting the chapters up tonight. So if there's just one section that you wanted to listen to, or need to go back and listen to Nick's rant again, you'll be able to get that a little bit easier. Everybody have a great week. Nick and I will be back this weekend on Sunday with 41 is the mic. We're going to wait until all the Sunday games are over. Probably not wait until the Monday game in the NFC, but we're going to wait until at least the Broncos game is done. Might be a little bit later in the day, but we're going to be able to recap all of the AFC action, because we want to be able to preview Chiefs divisional round game and who they're hosting next weekend. Well, week and a half from now. Everybody have a great week. We will see you on Sunday for 41 is the mic, and be back here on Tuesday for the next Q&A. And next week, maybe we'll have a new graphics package and all the colors will match. So everybody have a great week. Take care. Appreciate you all.